Yeah, I'll react to that. Sure. Okay, is that good? Test, 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 test. Hey guys. Okay, so we are doing. Huh? Tom Scott video. We're doing Sabaton his Christmas Truce. I did the song, and so now I will be doing the video.
Today's Sabaton history episode is not about a battle. It's not about a weapon. It's not about like a tank or a plane. It's not even about a person involved in a war. Yet it is about the Great War.
It is, of course, the Christmas truce.
Okay. I really hope my audio is okay. It seems like it's good because I messed around with the settings and now I'm risking it. Okay, go.
You'll be home before the first leaves fall, they said. The war will be over by Christmas, they said. Well, the leaves had all fallen, and by late December 1914, there was no end in sight to the Great War. As the soldiers realized that they would spend winter in the miserable trenches, morale plummeted. What would happen, I wonder, Winston Churchill wrote to his wife in mid-December, if the armies suddenly and simultaneously went on strike and said some other method must be found for settling their dispute? He would soon find out.
Oh my god, this is why I say my thoughts immediately, so I don't forget. Oh yeah, so this is going to depend on whether you have adequate winter clothing, of course. But if you had adequate winter clothing and adequate summer clothing, wouldn't you rather be in the trenches in the winter than the summer? Because infection and voice crack. Jesus, I'm almost 30. And trench foot and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to. Okay.
The professional armies of career soldiers who had fought each other over the summer were largely gone by now, dead, wounded, or prisoners. In their stead stood conscripted men and disillusioned wartime volunteers, trapped in the horrors of trench warfare. Both sides spent their days sharing their meager rations with rats, fleas, and lice. They slept in damp.
I don't want to pause too much, but it's almost like the leaders in the First World War on the Western Front, like Germany versus France and the UK and it's almost like they were playing. Well, the US was later, so like France, England, Germany. It's almost like the leaders were playing chicken and saying like, whoever is willing to send more young bodies into the meat grinder will win. And it's like a game of chicken of how many people are you willing to sacrifice in order to get the result of the war that you want.
Underground dugouts and caves, while the forward sentries tried to keep awake in the mud and the sleet. The whole trench system was still seen as temporary, though, and breakthrough would come soon, so it lacked any kind of comfort or sophistication. And beyond the parapets, well, on December 21st, British Colonel Swinton wrote, "This is the Ultima Thule. Beyond is neutral territory, the no man's land between the hostile forces. It is strewn with the dead of both sides, some lying, others caught or propped on the sagging wire where they may..."
Jesus. So aside from the bodies, what is almost more terrifying is look at the battlefield. And I'm thinking to myself, whenever I see footage, Jesus Christ, right there. Sorry, whenever I see footage, I'm realizing what I'm looking at right now with one of the, I'm like, where on earth are they finding these battlefields that are just mounds of dirt like you'd find in a construction site? And then you realize, no, that was probably like any old meadow or field, and it's just so bombarded by artillery that it's just dirt and bodies, and I gotta stop.
Both sides, some lying, others caught or propped on the sagging wire where they may have been for days, still others half buried in craters or destroyed parapets. When winter began and the temperature dropped, an increased lethargy was noticed by officers on both sides. Soldiers were literally sick of the worsening conditions, of being constantly exposed to the cold, the rain, and the enemy guns. The aggressive policies put in place by high command to keep the infantry busy only made things worse. Patrolling through the nights, keeping watch over the parapets, throwing bombs and sniping at the enemy, it all seemed so futile. All it did.
Look at the almost skeletonized horse. Like that horse has been dead there for a long time.
Throwing bombs and sniping at the enemy, it all seemed so futile.
The
All
rat
it did
population
was
must have,
increase their own chances of getting killed.
Really
This
good
led
music
to a
video.
number of unofficial truces all over the front, a live and let live system. You let me sleep, I let you sleep. You don't fire on our latrines, we won't shoot up yours. Sometimes grenades were intentionally thrown to the side, or code words were exchanged,
What's a latrine?
signaling a coming bombardment. It was a basic, almost natural understanding that there were limits to war. This is important in order to understand what would happen in the days around Christmas. The Champagne offensive began the week before Christmas. After a series of attacks and counterattacks, no man's land was once more littered with the bodies of the fallen. The overall mood inside the trenches was as terrible as the weather, with men up to their knees in mud and water. Then the first incidents happened. German soldiers were heard asking about a ceasefire. Hands in the air, they indicated that they wanted to go out and take care of the wounded in no man's land and bury the decaying bodies. The British agreed and went out to do the same. It was all spontaneous. But suddenly, men were passing each other over the battlefield without firing a shot. In some cases, they even had a quick chat or shared a cigarette. People sometimes overestimate the size of no man's land, but the trenches were usually 200 meters apart max, often less than half that. The forward saps were even closer. Day and night, the men could hear each other talking or yelling and singing. Conversations between the two sides were not uncommon. When a German soldier was seen carrying a wounded British soldier back to the line, he was thanked and granted a safe passage back. Christmas Eve morning, the Christmas gifts arrived. Chocolate and sweets, cigarettes and tobacco, and hundreds of thousands of small packages and letters from home. This raised morale tremendously, but also magnified the feelings of homesickness and the desire for peace and a return to normal life. Men began shouting and teasing each other. "Fritz, Tommy, come across, we meet halfway." But they were hesitant. A few brave souls went out at their own risk. There are many different stories, but over the course of the day, there were even incidents of British and German officers talking about a possible ceasefire on Christmas Day. By evening, soldiers lit candles in the trenches. Some even set up small Christmas trees. The men sang the all-time classics in English and German, like Stille Nacht, The First Noel, and O Come All Ye Faithful. For most devout Christians, Christmas was the most important day of the year. And the celebration of the birth of Christ stood in many ways in stark contrast to the reality of the war itself. Around midnight, everything went eerily quiet. And on Christmas morning, as the fog disappeared, the stillness remained. Instead of the cracking of rifles, men heard the chirping of birds. Everyone in the sector wondered what would happen next. Soldiers once more began talking to each other. Boxes of food and souvenirs were thrown across to the other side. A few men exposed themselves above the parapets.
This what I'm saying. It's in my mind, but I might be wrong, or it's just a question. So ever since the advent of gunfire and better guns and long-range weapons, where combat is less and less personal, in-your-face fighting. Where I'm sure back in the day when, battles were fought mostly with sword and spear and whatnot, that you might see someone who killed your friend on the battlefield, and then you might. And so, like, the fact that the killing is done by much further away, and you can't see really who kills who, and there's none that, like, oh, he killed my friend, I'm not having a truce with it. It's more like just like a German killed him, or a Brit or a Frenchman killed him. And I wonder if that reality of less face-to-face combat, of seeing someone kill someone, made it more possible to have a truce, or is it, that might just be nonsense, but I thought of it.
Then more followed. A basic agreement was made. No one would fire unless fired upon. In some places where the ceasefire had indeed been arranged beforehand, further rules were set in place. First of all, if either side fired a shot with the intent to kill, the truce was immediately off. Action by artillery.
I was just about to say, what would happen if someone, like, accidentally, like, let a round off? I bet you everyone would be like, oh.
Did not count, nor did it break the truce, as they immediately off. Action by artillery did not count, nor did it break the truce, as they had no control over the batteries far to the rear of the trenches.
Understood.
If an order was given to open fire, they would shoot the first 3 rounds into the air to give the other side time to get under cover. If there were orders...
Hold on, that's so
the trenches.
Badass and cool.
If an order was given to open fire, they would shoot the first 3 rounds into the air to give the other side time to get under cover.
I didn't know all of these, like, I didn't know about, this is my first time hearing, it's not my first time hearing about the Christmas truce. I actually learned about it in college. But this is I didn't know they had all of these precautions for, like, all right, artillery barrages, none of us have any call on whether those are fired, so those won't break the truce. And, only a direct fire shoot to kill would break the truce. And also, even if they were given an order to shoot by their higher ups, they would fire the first in the air to give them time. I didn't know about that stuff, and that is powerful.
If there were orders to expend a certain amount of ammunition this day, the machine gunners would waste ammo in the evening hours after a shrill warning signal. Neither side was allowed to erect barbed wire or...
Jesus, they're still coming, the precautions.
This day, the machine gunners would waste ammo in the evening hours after a shrill warning signal. Neither side was allowed to erect barbed wire or repair their trenches during the truce. Still, wire after a shrill warning signal. Neither side was allowed to erect barbed wire or repair their trenches during the truce. Still, everything depended on trust and an unwritten code of honor. A machine gun could cut them all down within seconds, yet no one shot. Men venturing out did not even carry arms. Some waved a white flag, and the men, mortal enemies just a day before, met and shook hands, talked, and exchanged gifts. For a few hours, it was peace. There were, of course, some officers who went straight to headquarters to report this, and plenty of men who did not take part. But overall, the mood was far from being hostile. It was this weird realization that the other side was just as human as their own side.
Silence. Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day. After many months on the battlefield, and we were used to the violence. Then all the cannons went silent, and the snow fell. Voices sang to me from no man's land. We are all, we are all, we are all, we are all friends.
The most iconic moment.
I love that. German. Well, I forget what the French hats are. So is that Germans and English, or German French? Yeah, I love how they even expended their bullets. Not like they didn't fire them, but they fired them like into the air or whatever to like show their higher ups, hey, look, I did fire all of these, rather than being like, oh, what's the deal? You're on the battlefield. Well, what's all this ammo not being fired? And I already recorded and watched my reaction, or recorded my reaction to the song, which I will be posting before this. So I hope you check that out first, or whatever order.
The most iconic moment of the truce is, of course, the football match in no man's land. It was as spontaneous as everything else that day.
It might not have happened.
And the stories all vary. A ball appeared from somewhere. I don't know where, but it came from their side. They made up some goals, and one fellow went in goal, and then it was just a general kickabout. I should think there were a couple of hundred taking part. I had a go at the ball. Everybody seemed to be enjoying themselves. There was no sort of ill will between us. There was no referee, no score, no tally at all. Private Williams of the Cheshire Regiment. A couple of English brought a football out of their
trench. Hold on, guys. I really want to get a notepad and just 1 sec. It's just, I have something I want to talk about after this thing is over, and I just want to write it down so I don't forget. I'd like to talk a bit length about it, and so I'm not going to say it right now. I'll wait for the end, but now I won't forget.
Bigger Cheshire Regiment. A couple of English brought a football out of their trench, and a vigorous football match began. This was also marvelous and strange. The English officers thought so too. Towards the evening, the officers asked whether a big football match could be held the following day between the two positions. Sachsen-Leutnant Zemich. No man's land had seemed 10 miles across when we were crawling out on a night patrol, but now we...
What's that? It's like a Zeppelin or something, or like a... What is that? Or maybe it's just part of the film, like a...
Found it no wider than the width of 2 football pitches. We provided the football and set up stretchers as goalposts, and the Reverend Jolly, our padre, acted as referee. They beat us 3-2. Robert Graves, Royal Welsh Fusiliers. As it started getting dark, men shook hands and went back to their trenches. The Christmas truce was a unique and rare moment in history, sure. It was both spontaneous and to a certain degree foreseeable. Of course, it didn't happen everywhere. Hundreds of men still died, and parts of the front were as busy as they were every other day. And the Western Front was just one of many battlefronts in the war. On Christmas Day, Ottoman soldiers by the tens of thousands were busy freezing to death in the disastrous Battle of Sarıkamış in eastern Anatolia. But for those that experienced the truce, it was something they'd never forget. In some places it lasted a few hours, somewhere else it lasted to the next day, but it could not go on forever. As the news went up the chain of command, generals on both sides were quick to snuff it out. Fraternization was deemed a crime against the nation. Participating units were rotated out of the lines, and their officers were threatened with court-martial.
As nice of a story it is, I understand from like the commander point of view. I have more sympathy for the soldiers on both sides than the commanders on both sides. But it's going to make it much more difficult to kill the enemy if you know them a bit better, you know? It's kind of like, all right, well, now let's go back and shoot each other.
High command ordered inspections and speeches and shamed the men at the front. Did you shake hands with those that bayoneted babies in Belgium? Did you exchange gifts with the bastards that killed your brother yesterday? Although the press back home was quick to take up the story, censorship soon cracked down on its telling. The whole truce became taboo. Official war history denied that it ever happened. It only lived on through the memories of those that had participated and who had shared the stories with those back home. As the war went on, the animosity between sides became ever greater. Poison gas, flamethrowers, the sinking of merchant ships, the slaughter at the Somme and Verdun, all made sure that the Christmas truce in the West would not repeat itself. Of course, there would be smaller truces all over the war on all fronts for such things as retrieving bodies. Informal arrangements were respected, but this level of fraternization, this antithesis to war, would never be again reached. Not until the end. Still, Churchill got his answer. For a single day, the opposing forces mingled in friendly conversation and even in games. It was an amazing spectacle and must arouse bitter thoughts concerning those high-ranking conspirators against the peace of the world who in their mad ambition had hounded such men on to take each other by the throat rather than by the hand. Arthur Conan Doyle.
Great music video. Wow.
Hey, Indy. Hey, there's something that looks a little bit different on you than normally.
Is it the kavai? Yeah.
Nose?
No. It's you've done something to your
Oh,
face.
yeah. Oh, you know, I completely forgot about that.
Make up
Funny
a
story, though.
badass
You want to know how
story.
that happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope it's a good Christmas
It's
story.
a good story. Yeah. It's Christmas time, right? It was Christmas time, and because I'm a good guy, I was doing some charity work, right? And there were these orphans and nuns in an orphanage. Although it was a non-denominational orphanage, because Christmas is really about to celebrate giving and the human spirit and stuff. You could put religion in it if you like, but you know what I mean, right? So, but I'm there, and I'm dressed as Santa Claus, right? And I'm giving out presents to all of the orphans from all over the world. They were all good orphans. There were no bad ones. Nobody got like a lump of coal or anything. And they got Sabaton albums, different ones. Someone got The Art of War, and this guy got The Great War. Everybody loves Sabaton. All orphans love Sabaton. And nuns, too. Nuns love Sabaton, too. Well, it's going along great. But one of the nuns was smoking, right? And there was like, you know, the bunting, you know, the crepe paper and stuff like that, which is pretty flammable. And it started going up. And we realized that since it was cold, because it was Christmas, the pipes were frozen, so there's no water, right? So
I have no idea if this is a fake or true story so far. Like, I'm like, this is fake. Oh, no, it's fake.
we couldn't put it out. So suddenly, the whole orphanage, the non-denominational orphanage, is a raging inferno. And I'm like, save the orphans, save the orphans. So I start grabbing orphans, like 1, 2 at a time. And I'm running out of the thing, and people are going, Andy, save the orphans. And I'm saving the orphans. But the thing is, there's a lot of smoke. There's smoke everywhere because it's a fire, right? And I'm breathing in the smoke, and I start coughing. But my coughing is coming like, whoo. I'm going like, whoo, whoo, whoo. And the flames carrying kids. I look like the most satanic Santa Claus you ever seen. But I was actually a good Santa Claus.
This is a Michael Bay interpretation of just like I tripped and fell on a stair.
Because I was saving orphans, right? And I get like all the orphans out, and the nun, and one, she apologized for smoking, and I got everybody's out there and stuff, and we're lying there in the snow out there, and I stand up and I hear this voice from behind me, and it was the Mother Superior, and she said, Indy, come here for a second. I turned around and I walked right into the door.
Oh, damn.
I took a layer of skin off my nose. Can you believe that?
No. But what happened to the one who was smoking? She's still smoking?
No.
Okay, good.
Look, this just, no human beings are perfect. I'm not mocking orphans or nuns or myself or you or no. I mean, smoking has several severe consequences. If you're a long-term smoker, you know what they are. You know that you have consequences. It does not mean that you can easily quit smoking. None or no none,
For me, I never smoked cigarettes until I was in college in New York, and since like so many people in New York City in college smoked cigarettes, it was crazy that I picked it up and I smoked cigarettes in college. And then as soon as I left college, and like no one around me anymore was a big smoker, it was very easy for me to stop, just because I didn't have people around me smoking all the time. It's a random. Okay, sorry.
Well, I'm glad we had this talk. I'm glad we had this
Great
talk today.
introduction.
So let me ask you a question about the Christmas Truce episode. It is one of the most iconic things of the First World War, the most iconic occurrences, certainly non-battle related and stuff. But yet, when you did the Great War, it's not on that. Now, did you consider a song about the Christmas Truce for the first Great War album, or why is it only now coming?
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, it is exactly like you said. We were considering it, of course, for the first album, for the Great War album. Of all the topics of World War I, the most requested was, please do a song that is not about battles. Do something about peace. Do about the Christmas Truce.
Right.
I just can't. I love it. He looked like if you went back to Denmark, like 900 years ago, and just plucked someone. Like this is what I would imagine. This is a Viking right here.
We wanted to do it, but it's also about creating a good, suitable
About
song
to
for
raid
it.
England.
Okay.
And we didn't do
For
that.
the
We
South.
didn't write the right song for it.
I need to shut
And it
up.
was-
I'm making
Right.
bad jokes.
And we wanted to do it, but it's also about creating a good, suitable song for it.
Okay.
And we didn't do that. We didn't write the right song for it. And it was always in our mind, maybe we should do another song to just add to it and maybe have the Christmas Truce as a standalone single or something like that.
Okay.
And but as time progressed, and then there came a virus into the world which forbid us from touring, which meant that we went back a little bit to the songwriting process, and then we started to create more songs about World War I. And of course, at this time, we spent a lot of effort making the Christmas Truce song.
How did the songwriting process for this go? Since it was obviously difficult, if not impossible, for the first album to do it, how did you succeed this time?
Well, it's sort of a question for Joachim. However, I know, talking to him, how stressed he was about writing a specific song. I mean, when it comes to writing a song, any song,
Yeah.
it's much easier than write a specific
I
song.
probably asked this before, but it's been a while since I watched like a Sweden video. Is there a j sound in Sweden, just using different letters to denominate to like and no,
About
Song, any song.
yeah.
It's much easier than write a specific song.
about.
I mean, normally Sabaton has a very, very big box of things. You know, you can play like that or play like that, and it's a very, very big variety of songs.
Right.
But if you have to write specifically the Christmas Truce, you are a tiny window,
Yeah.
and that's of course makes the
Difficult.
songwriting process more difficult.
Yeah.
But in the end, there is a song, and it captures the Christmas spirit.
Now
that was
you
good.
know,
I feel like just with a. So you're saying how like with a more narrow subject matter, it's harder to create lyrics. I'm sure about, but I think they did a good job, like picking certain big. You know, we're all brothers fight. Big. Meanings or big lessons. What is the word I'm looking for? Big messages of that, and then create some lyrics off of that. It was a good song. It was a good video, amazing video.
when I was doing the Great War, people would ask
Only
all the
second to
time,
Bismarck,
since
probably.
we did a special about the Christmas
Yeah.
Truce in the first year, but people always asking, well, were there other like Christmas truces or Easter truces or other holiday truces? Did people try to do these on any of the fronts? And the answer is not no. Now, in the history part you just heard, I don't talk about this, but on Easter in 1916, on the Eastern Front, the Russians tried an Easter truce facing against not the Germans, the Austro-Hungarians, they're facing that part of the front, and they came out of their trenches on Easter morning. With no weapons or anything, and they were taken prisoner by the Austro-Hungarians because the Julian and Gregorian calendars, which they're 13 days difference. So it's Easter to the Russians, but it was not Easter to the Austro-Hungarians. It was just a bunch of guys coming out of their trenches without their weapons. So they took them all prisoners. So that's a big main reason why you did not get Easter in front truces.
And imagine if there was the
But I mean,
midsummer.
they didn't do. They both celebrate Christmas, right, on the 25th in Russia and Austria-Hungary at the time, I'm sure. And well, I believe Easter is the most kind of important holiday of the Christian, calendar or whatever you want to call it. I think even over Christmas.
Swedish midsummer truce.
Yeah.
This is a thing. If Sweden, hopefully never, but if Sweden goes to war and we fight over the midsummer,
Yeah.
we will try to do a midsummer's celebration, drinking moonshine and singing.
As you do.
The little frogs.
Now, but, okay, so that's
Halos.
midsummer.
Probably the enemy is just like, oh, idiots, let's shoot them.
Wait, I speak Swedish. I think they're singing about frogs. Because they are. That's what Swedes do at midsummer. But speaking of what Swedes do at midsummer, what do you do at Christmas? How do you celebrate? Do you celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, well, it's my life. It hasn't changed that much. We're still together with the family, with the core family, and we just sit and we give away some presents and we have a nice dinner together the whole day, and then we watch the Swedish Kalle Anka.
Okay, of course. I didn't used to when I came to
Is that
Sweden. 'cause I
Donald
thought-
Duck? Oh yeah, don't Swedes love Donald Duck
Kalle Anka.
because the blue and yellow. I love Donald Duck myself. He was my favorite Disney character.
Okay, of course. I didn't used to when I came to Sweden because I thought that's the same thing every year. But I do now.
Yeah.
I do. The older I get, the more Christmas traditioning I get. Although, since my family, my siblings and my parents are all in Texas, and it's rare that I'm there over Christmas because I usually have work here. But I do sometimes, like a few years ago, I went to a media market and bought the biggest deep fryer I could find on December 23rd. And I spent the next 3 days alone with just the cats, like deep frying like everything. Just seeing, and it was like
Remember,
one of
guys, I
the
wanna
most fun
talk about
Christmases I've
one
ever
thing,
had.
okay?
You know what was really good? Deep fried gummy bears were really good. Okay, this is how you do deep fried gummy bears. Get a handful of gummy bears and stick them in the microwave, and so they're soft, not melted, right? And then mash them together, right? And then put them in the freezer for like 2 hours or so till it's frozen together, and then dip them in some batter, like a beer batter, and then deep fry it in a little ball. It is delicious.
And that's the tip for this year's
cake
Christmas
and a
dinner.
ball.
That is your Christmas treat, thanks to Sabaton history.
For some reason, like whenever I think, like the first country that comes to my mind, it's like, so what country do you think of when you think of Christmas, right? Like Christmas, what country? I don't know why, but Germany. I just think, like, even before I'm just like, Christmas, Germany. I don't know why exactly. Maybe because a lot of the old children's Christmas TV shows, like back in the 50s and 60s, were like German based, or Bürgermeister. Yeah. Ein Tannenbaum. Ein Tannenbaum, oh Tannenbaum, wir sind reich und Hilfe. I just made that. I don't know if that was gibberish.
Do you have a Christmas message for everybody out there in Sabaton land?
Yeah, well, I think we just wish everybody good holidays.
Yeah, joyous and happy holidays. I hope
Have
you
a
guys,
great time.
I hope you're safe and happy, and your whole week and month are full of smiles, and nothing but smiles. See you next
And
time.
gummy bears.
And gummy bears, deep fried.
No,
I'm
stomach
from
ache.
Texas. We deep fry everything.
I'm getting a stomach ache just thinking about that.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye. Okay, the thing I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to make sure I didn't. This is a DMV form. Oh my God, this has my information on it. I shouldn't be waving it around. Where did I write it? Oh yeah, I wrote this down just because it was something that I want to talk. It might take me a minute or two to say and ask questions to you guys about it. So one of the things I thought about around like 5 minutes in or something. All right, let's just see them going out onto the trenches. Where is it? Where's that cool picture with them, like a group photo? Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. I'm not editing, guys, okay? Just bear with me. Dang it, I definitely passed it. Da, 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 dee. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. I'm looking for the one where they're like in a group photo with each other. But this will be fine, sure. But how similar. I can't keep going. This is fine. I wrote down similar values to your opponent. Well, I can't even read my own handwriting. Similar values to your opponent in war. Right. So, like, I thought this when I was listening to a really cool video of a Vietnam vet talking about his experience in the Vietnam War. How, people during the Vietnam War, the big major conflict going on before it. Of course, you have the Korean War, but before it was World War II, and when you think about the European front, so I'm talking about the person who is a Vietnam War vet, would talk about like his expectations going over to Vietnam were very much like what he learned the generation before him went through in liberating, say, France or Belgium, right? From the Germans in World War II, and showered with flowers and kisses and all this thing, and it's like Vietnam is a completely different culture than I can't say. It's just like it's crazy how only like the perfect example was the Russian trying to make a similar truce on Easter, and how it didn't work out, and how it seems like it's much harder to kill. It's much harder to sympathize with your enemy when your enemy has so much less in common with you. When you have people who have similar traditions, like Christmas, and you're fighting them, then I feel like that's the only time where this can happen. And I guess sometimes the most fierce wars in fighting can be done between two groups that know each other well, but this wasn't as profound something I it just seems like the stuff like this is only possible when you have culturally things in common, and when you don't have things culturally in common and very different traditions and different people, then I think it's a lot easier to dehumanize yourself from killing them. But what do I know? I could have just said that in a pause. I really forget why I wanted to talk about this so much. That's really all I have to say, is that having cultural similarities with your opponent can, I guess, breed beautiful moments like this. But as with the Russians and Austro-Hungarians, they weren't quite close enough in that. And that's interesting to me. That was probably underwhelming since I was like teasing it in the beginning. I want to talk about it. That's all I have to say, really. Really great video. I learned a lot in this video, despite this not being the first time learning about the Christmas truce. Mainly, kind of most awesome is all the stoppers in place, all the precautions they had in place of expending their bullets so their superiors don't know that they weren't firing them on the enemy, or just knowing that artillery is out of the hands of the people around them, and so an artillery barrage wouldn't cancel the truce. Really interesting. All right, I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the music video a lot too. I hope you guys did as well. I love to see if you guys learned anything or can teach me something. Would love to see it in the comments. And I hope you guys have a good holiday season. I'm not going anywhere, right? I'll be here pretty much every day. Like always, I love doing this. And happy December. I'll see you guys next time, all right? Bye, guys.